David Manilow, David Manilow. I am the creator and executive producer of Check Please. I came up with the idea for Check Please in 2001 in Chicago because I realized that there was not any real television shows about restaurants. And I kind of figured that the reason there was no TV shows about restaurants is because if you had regular expert reviewers on and they were on TV, they would not be able to give you really credible reviews because everywhere they'd go, they would be recognized and they'd be treated differently than everyone else. So I decided, maybe we could get regular people to review that would change every week, and that way you'd get a really authentic, credible review. And I kind of added the wrinkle of having each person recommend their favorite place and then send the other folks on the panel to go visit each other's places, because I thought maybe it would add a layer of a little bit of kind of tension and excitement to it. Like, I wonder whether this person will like my place. And I wanted to do a very diverse kind of juxtaposed show. So we have a lot of diversity in every which way the guests on the show, the types of restaurants, geography, price point, size and scale, things like that. I think there's a number of things. One, I think we're very trusted. We explore for people. We're not preachy in any way. It's not really the Check Please opinion, it's the people we put on the guests we put on the show's opinion. We also are, like I said before, we're very diverse. So we will do a tiny little hole in the wall and we'll do the fanciest place in town. And kind of as a brand, we do not believe that it's our place to say that the fanciest place in town is any more important than the little hole in the wall. It's each one is one of our guests' recommendations. And so I think we give people a kind of a wide range of places to think about. Plus, we explore the city. So people are seeing different parts of the city. They're seeing kind of their community within the show and within the guests on the show. I think that, plus the fact that we do a nice job, I think, with the production, we make the food look fantastic, and we articulate expectations for the viewers. So when they go to this restaurant or this neighborhood, they pretty much know what they're getting into before they go. So people look at us as a trusted source, and it expands their comfort zone. They will go to places and areas that they've never gone before because now there's a reason for them to go. Yeah, it's kind of like, when I established a show, it's kind of like water cooler conversation. People are always talking about, hey, I went to this place last night, what'd you think? Oh, I've been there, I've not, whatever. And because we are on television, we can show what the place looks like, what the food looks like. We can show what the waiters are wearing, who the chef is, what the customers are dressed like. So when you have the regular person's review, especially since you have 3 people and it's a cross section of people, you get a pretty good idea of what the place is like. I think we do a great job, and Check Please's brand does a great job of kind of saying this is what you should expect of the restaurants. And in this day and age, if you had some, long-time newspaper reviewer that you don't know what they look like, you pretty much don't know, who they are or what their likes or dislikes are other than their tastes in food, I think, we give a much better illustration of the place and the neighborhood. Plus, restaurants have changed into something a little bit more experiential. It's really not just about the food anymore. It's about, what's the atmosphere like? Who should go there? What's the crowd like? Because that's what people are doing when they go out and dine. It's not just, how was this steak versus that steak? There's a lot more that goes into it. So the fact that we can show it, and we can show it through the eyes of regular people and a cross-section of regular people, I think really hits the spot for viewers and for the brand. Yeah, I think there's an aspect between the tension of the viewer, I think there's an aspect of tension within the reviewers of, like, if I pick my favorite place and another reviewer doesn't like it, it's kind of like, are you calling my child ugly? Really? You're calling, this is my favorite place? And what happened? Or you just don't know what you're talking about. So there is a little bit of tension, and what happens with viewers at home is they kind of might connect with one of our reviewers more than another. So they might not care if this guy doesn't like it because, oh, I like the person who picked it, and that seems like a place for me. Or, this person just doesn't get, authentic Chinese food or high-end dining, or, he's not a guy that's going to go grab a burger. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. You can kind of, as a viewer at home, you can make your own conclusion. And people, you see people who come on to Check Please, and when somebody recommends a place, and then the next person loves his place. Sometimes people will go, oh, thank you so much for recommending this. I would have never found it if not for you. And you see these people like exhale in this kind of like, they exhale in happiness, right? Oh my God, I'm so glad you liked my place. I was so worried you weren't gonna like it. And so you have this kind of built-in tension on the show, and that just happens organically. We really don't manipulate confrontation, but there's no chance that if you get 3 different people every week, that everyone's gonna always like everybody else's place. It just can't happen. And so we don't shy away from conflict or confrontation. We don't manipulate it. Yeah, so we've had about 35,000 people sign up to be guests in Chicago. We don't, it's not really a waiting list. You can be the 35,001st and get on. It just depends on, whether we think you'd be a good guest and whether we match you up with the other 2 guests on that particular show. But yeah, there's a lot of people that have signed up in Chicago and all over the country because, when I first came up with the idea of the show, I just wanted it to be a voice kind of regular people. And by doing that, you can't really be wrong, right? So if you're a truck driver, you don't really care what the lawyer who's sitting next to you thinks about your restaurant. He has no better opinion of it than you do, and vice versa. So it's a very kind of relatable experience for guests on the show and viewers. And it's something that people want to be heard. This is their place. They're happy about their place. They like their place. And they also get to be on TV, which is nice. And so we just kind of let them be themselves. I think that's a good way of putting it. I think expertise helps a lot. So because you're the host, and I'll start there. Because you're the host, and you as a host, along with Check Please, have really no opinion about the restaurants, you have to be able to offer something. So what you can offer is you can keep the ball up in the air. You can keep the conversation rolling, but you can also offer some expertise about, whether it's wine or beer or food or atmosphere or things like that, history of the restaurants. Maybe you've been a chef, maybe you're a sommelier, whatever. And so I think that's really important. So you can give people a little bit of an inside knowledge about the places and the people that we're talking about. So the hosts we've had, sommeliers, master sommeliers, wine experts, restaurateurs, chefs, food writers. So they're all people with some kind of expertise in the industry. First of all, I think it will work in just about any city with a either emerging or robust dining scene. I think it works really well in other cities because it's a really honest show. And in kind of the world of reality television, which is all manipulated, ours is just kind of like, we're just laying it out there for you. It's almost like you've stumbled into overhearing a conversation at another table about restaurants. And because we kind of intercut the video of the restaurants within the body of the show, you feel like, wow, I understand this place. I'm getting it from a reliable source, because it doesn't feel staged or canned, because it's not. And it also feels very relatable to people. Plus, I think, I look at the show as much about exploring and loving your city as I do it just about restaurants. I understand it's about restaurants, but it's really about like kind of going and seeing different parts of your community, kind of taste testing different types of meals and ethnic offerings and neighborhoods that maybe you wouldn't get if you were just, flipping through the hotel magazine. That's where you're looking at stuff that's just kind of, sponsored, bought and paid for. You're going to get the same, you're going to get the same 10 places every time because they have the budget to send you out to their, to advertise for those places. What we try to do is kind of expose viewers to places that maybe they haven't heard about, or types of, cuisines, meals, dishes, people that they're not familiar with, and then they can make the decision as to whether they want to go and dine at these places. That's not our goal. Has never really been to drive traffic to restaurants. Our goal has been kind of to explore for you and give you something that to think about. And if you want to get out, that's awesome. And our history is we do drive a lot of foot traffic to restaurants because we have articulated expectations and we have expanded people's comfort zones. It's always been amazing to me when I go back to a restaurant and they'll tell me how far people have traveled, because they can see it in like the zip codes of the credit cards. They'll say people come from all over, and I understand why they come from all over, because they feel comfortable in going to this place in this neighborhood, and there's a reason now, because they go, oh my God, I really want that fried chicken or that milkshake, or that owner seems so nice, or I've never had Filipino food, or whatever it is. There's a reason for them to go. I've had Senegalese couples tell me they can send their kids to college because of the show. I had a guy who owns a ribs place that brought me out to the parking lot and showed me his Mercedes. I know places that, a pizza guy got a call while he was in the back making pizza. The show aired on Saturday. I'm sorry, the show aired on Friday, and Saturday at noon, some guy asked him, how long does it take to get in? And he thought, because he's kind of in a remote location, he asked him where he was, thinking it was how long does the drive take? And the guy said, I'm outside at the alley. And he walked outside, and the line had wrapped around his restaurant all the way back to the alley, like you're going to Disney World or something. And so, there's all kinds. There's a thing called the check please effect, when we do restaurants and how much impact it has. Probably smaller, less known restaurants, more than the really known restaurants because they're known. Probably the average or lower price point versus the really fine dining places, because people aren't lining up around the block the next day to go to some super expensive place. But they'll put it in their, they'll file in their memory, and they'll go for a special occasion, or they'll just go. But it's been really wonderful. We love the kind of American dream stories and the impact it's had for people like that. It's a very good question. When I came up with the idea, the first and only place I pitched it to was WTTW in Chicago. It's PBS, because I thought the brands were perfectly aligned. I didn't want it to be commercialized. I want it to be trusted, and I think what PBS has is inherent trust. And so when you're already on PBS, people aren't coming in skeptical. They're kind of like going, oh, this is really interesting. This fits really well with what PBS does. It's trusted, it's an authentic, it's explores for you. The other thing we did, in PBS, it's kind of like, it's very everyman. So even our hosts, I never looked for like some slick, TV anchor host. I want it to be like your host is just, in the business and kind of like relatable, and you could, find him or her at the next table when you go out to a restaurant. And I think that's what's good about the PBS alignment is it's accessible and trustworthy, authentic, and the expectations for quality are there, and that's what we try to deliver. We're not hammering anybody over the head. We're just trying to do a kind of sincere, quality production that allows people to explore, allows people to relate to what's on the screen, and with really high production values. Well, first of all, depending on the funder, PBS audience will travel more, they'll spend more, they're typically a little bit more affluent. They, I think, have a stronger relationship with the sponsors. So if they see someone, a company that's sponsoring Check Please or other PBS shows, they'll be more connected to that sponsor. I think they would also feel that like Check Please especially is really a part of the community. So it's got a little bit of American Dream, it's a little bit of Everyman, a little bit of success stories. So I feel that like whoever's sponsoring it is in a really good space because, look, we're not talking about things that are incredibly controversial, but we are providing like an interesting quality, and we're urging people also to see their community, to explore. Absolutely. I think it's, I think it's kind of, I've tried to develop the show where everybody wins. Hopefully the viewers win because they've watched something interesting that gives them some ideas. The restaurants certainly win because they're getting some exposure, a little notoriety. I think the station wins. It's great programming, and it's something that can be aired a lot, and people will talk about. Sponsors win because they're associated with I think a show of quality, but also something that has some buzz and something that's good for the community. So I think it's got a lot of really positives to it, and people want to be connected to it. When I mentioned before that we've had 35,000 people sign up, they want to be connected, and plus it has a great opportunity for a website, social media, all kinds of other digital assets that sponsors can be connected to as well. I would love to see Check Please come to KVIE in Northern California because I think it's an emerging restaurant scene there. I think you have a lot of farm to fork, interesting young new chefs. Restaurants, in cities all over the country are becoming so big, it just becomes something that a city like Sacramento or around there, can embrace. And the competition within restaurants these days makes all these restaurants so much better. And so I think you have an opportunity to, to have a broad reach. Plus, you have an opportunity to get your viewers to explore places that they maybe haven't thought of. California is a little different than Chicago. People in Chicago, they'll drive 45 minutes, maybe. People in California, they'll drive. They'll go check out places. They'll explore. It's just part of their DNA. And so I think you can really have a much wider reach there and touch on lots of different geographical areas and different types of cuisine, different types of people. And I think it's a great opportunity. And I believe that it's going to, the scene there is just going to grow and grow. So you're getting in at the right time, and then, over the next several years, I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger. Yeah, that's a really interesting concept. Restaurants are entrepreneurs, and they're also, like they do a deep dive into what they're doing. It's really about passion for them. Sure, it's about commerce to a point, but it's really about passion and creativity for restaurateurs these days. And they're also, they're getting to be more and more like artists. So they're creating beautiful food, especially out in California where your product is so good. You can, and so the food looks great. They're really passionate about where it's sourced from, and the value it brings to healthy eating, and to people's satisfaction now. It's not just about the burger I can make, and it's not just about fuel. It's about really creating something that people enjoy, and that I think is also something smart that's good for them down the line. I think that's well said. The time has really come for Check Please to come to Northern California. That's what I say.
You thought I fed you that one.
I would say that, it's a perfect time for Check Please to come to Northern California. You have the opportunity to be aligned with a really great brand that people talk about, they watch, they learn from, they explore because of, they see their community within the show. We articulate expectations for viewers. Viewers have a really warm relationship and connection to the brand, and I think they have a warm relationship and connection to the sponsors of the brand too. There's also opportunities for sponsors to kind of like feed off of the Check Please Glow a little bit through events or tastings or things of that nature, where you can gain more than just be a part of the commercial aspect. You can take it to places that a lot of other opportunities don't allow you to take.